contest in 8th grade?
8th grade.
8th grade. So she's a hooker. She likes to do that.
Doris asked me for something that maybe nobody knows about me, and I said, well, I did win the Golden Spoon Award in 8th grade in home ec for a dinner that I made, and I still have the cookbook that Mrs. Agati gave me as the prize. So there's a great coffee cake recipe in it that I probably know by heart, but that cookbook is well worn. So that's the fun fact about me. I'm not that interesting, I'm sorry. So I want to thank Doris for inviting me this morning. I did address the African American Chamber. I don't know if it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Doris, but it was too long ago. And I'm very happy to be back here today. There's a lot to update you on. Some of you know it and are involved in it with the modernization program, but I'm going to give you an overview of what it is, why we're here, what we're doing, and certainly leave time for questions that I can answer. Doris was, when I moved to Pittsburgh and took the job, Rich Fitzgerald gave me a list of 8 people I had to meet with. And Doris was on the list. So I am really delighted. Oh, that's my espresso.
You will. I'm gonna go get me one now.
You're my hero. So anyway, I'm really excited to be here and truly to answer any questions you have. I'm happy to make this interactive. You're certainly welcome to interrupt me as I talk. So I want to talk to you about the project. The modernization program is going to have a big impact on the region. We are a terrific economic engine for the region, and as we want to remember, the airport's important. That's not tough. That's not a tough message for an audience in Pittsburgh to understand, because you lived through what a lot of folks in the Midwest eventually went through, which is the loss of a tremendous amount of air service when U.S. Airways pulled down the hook. So what we're doing, and what we've been doing since I got here, is making the transition from what is a hub airport, right, where people connect and they never go outside, never take a taxi, never walk through security. They just go from one gate to the other, to an origin and destination airport, which is what we are today, where people don't connect. They just land or take off from. It's where people begin or end their journeys. And we are going to talk about, what I'm going to talk about today is the physical manifestation of what an O&D airport is. In other words, we've made the change in the market, so the airline service is service that you get for an origin and destination airport. It's service that serves this community, Pittsburgh, and now we need a facility to match, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So, there's a hell of a history in Pittsburgh when it comes to aviation, and this is something that as we were doing research for the project, we discovered, and this is where it all began in 1931. And I was just telling Doris that we have hired a new vice president for this airport, which is now a general aviation reliever airport, a woman named Tracy. She's starting, I think, next week. Yeah, we hired her.
Oh, that's good.
I work for her. So there we go. She accepted the job. She'll be moving here to run county airport. We're very excited about that. This is where this airport opened in 1931. It's a great Art Deco terminal. We've just refaced it, rehabbed the parking lot, fixed the fountain. It looks beautiful. That's where commercial aviation started in Pittsburgh in 1931. At the time, it was the 3rd largest airport in the country, for effect, and considered to be the largest paved airport with the first fully lighted airfield. So Pittsburgh has a history of being an industry leader in aviation. It was definitely a leader in a fledgling industry. So at the time, think about it, there weren't a whole lot of people who were flying. And that allowed local businesses to grow and to access the world. And businesses grew so much as a result of, and this aviation industry was growing so much, that people figured out in the 1940s, we better start planning for something bigger. That facility is not going to make it. And it's a good thing they did. So if you walk down our concourses, you see those signs, once there was a farm. Well, there was. And that's what became Greater Pitt, which opened in 1952, which was a state-of-the-art leading facility that enabled airline and passenger growth for decades. It was a semicircular building. I don't remember it very well, but a lot of people in this community do. It was a granite and glass building, and it was called a bold step into the world of tomorrow. And that was this region's airport for 40 years. But then again, by the 1980s, that facility was no longer meeting the demands of the industry for here in Pittsburgh, and US Airways showed up and said, you win, we're going to make you a mega hub. So if you'll bond $1 billion worth of bonds, we'll fill it with airplanes and we'll bring passengers in. And in 1992, 27 years ago, the new airport, right, a regional facility that was really meant to be US Airways' future growth potential, because there's a plan for another X actually down here. This was really going to be, I think, Atlanta, a large mega hub. But US Airways really was the prime decision maker for this. And this at the time, and still is, that X design, where you've got the center core with that great narrow floor, that X design was years and decades ahead of its time. If you look at the new airports that are being built today in Mumbai, Mexico City, Abu Dhabi, they have an X. It's a great design, and credit to Tasso Cassotis for coming up with it. But this was really, again, the whole point of this was you land at A5, you take off from B27. You don't go through ticketing, you don't go through a security checkpoint. And when that was built, there was no TSA, right? So that was the primary purpose. The Pittsburgh passengers weren't necessarily well thought of, which is why there's a train and why there were only 1,200 covered parking spaces in a snow belt. Because US Airways wasn't really concerned about you, right? They were concerned about the people they were taking from Boston to San Diego, from New York to Austin. Those are the folks that went through Pittsburgh. So when the US Airways hub left or started to come down in 04 and really hit the skids in 07, there was a very big facility left. The point is that this region has had a history of adjusting its aviation facilities to meet demand. It's what we do. But every single time we start over. This time we're gonna tweak it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. That's the history. So what's been going on now? I was brought in to do one thing, which was bring in more flights. Everything else is like, whatever else you can get done, that'll be a bonus. But really the goal and the job that was put in front of me was, can we answer the fundamental questions that the business community and the board? Are we stuck with, do we have to live with what we've been left with? 37 destinations served nonstop instead of 110 when US Airways was here. Or is there anything else we can do? And I said, oh my God, there's so much more you can do. We've got to just look at this differently. This is a diamond in the rough. It's absolutely possible to increase the amount of air service here because this community is so badly underserved. So we built a lot of momentum. Passengers are up. Cost per plane passenger is down. As Doris said, that doesn't happen on its own. That's part of a team approach to how we think about business at the airport. And members of my team are here today. I'm just going to ask them to stand up. Come on, everybody, stand up. There we go. These are folks who work every single job at the airport we've tied to air service, whether it's the plumber, the painter, the person in finance, or the person in contracting. There's a way that you are, as I say to everybody, supporting our ability to bring in and retain the air service that we have. So if you think about a background operating system, right, the system that's running in the background, it's safety and then it's air service. Everything else serves that. Because you can't build a terminal and expect airlines to come. You can't have a great media department if there's nothing to talk about. You can't have a great business development department if there are no contracts to write. So we focus very much on our airline partners as a way of serving the needs of this community. And our job is to figure out how those things match up. So we have been committed to stable airline costs. As you can see, they're going down. And one of the things that we're looking at doing is constantly communicating to the airlines and the community why we deserve to do this next project, right? We are committed to stable airline costs. We're very good stewards of our finances and money. We plan to pay off the remaining debt of that U.S. Airways terminal by next year. We are continuing to be creative with how we maximize revenue through concessions, retail, parking, and development, our land development, while we keep the passenger experience at the forefront. So at the end of the day, we are absolutely working hard to make sure that the airlines know we're a good business partner, but we need you as a passenger and a community member to make sure you get what you need as you work through the airport and approach it and drop off and pick up or fly through it. So we actually have, we just broke ground late last year on the Pittsburgh Airport Innovation Campus. We sit on 8,800 acres. We're the 7th largest airport in the U.S., or tied for 7th, when you think of land mass. We have a big piece of land that we're on. Just for comparison purposes, has anybody flown to Boston? Yeah. That sits on 2,500 acres, surrounded by water on 3 sides and neighborhoods on the other. There's nowhere for that airport to go. Okay? So we have 8,800 acres, and we have the ability to develop the land around us for commercial development. So we're being very thoughtful about that. We have also been working on developing an international logistics center with access to international air cargo, and that comes in through Qatar from Doha and Luxembourg twice a week on a 777. That's not replacement service for U.S. Airways. We've never had that before. And we see with the British Airways flight returning, we have wide-body international air cargo in the belly of that flight. So we're starting to develop a cargo presence here in Pittsburgh that we expect to build on. And we've been focusing on resilience through building a new microgrid. So LAX lost power last week. Atlanta lost it a couple of months ago. We're going to make sure that that's not going to be a problem in Pittsburgh ever. And so we're working through the process of getting the contract in place and building a microgrid out at the airport. As Doris said, we have been focused on DVE and small business outreach initiatives, which I'll talk more about in a minute, to ensure that business at the airport is open to all. So that's been something that we've been working on since the beginning. Some things take longer to get going than others, but we're finally there and we intend to keep going. So we have been continuing to recruit new carriers. For those of you who didn't see it, and I can't believe you wouldn't have, but that's my world, not yours. British Airways is back. After 20 years, they left in 1999, and they are back with service to Heathrow. They just started on April 2nd. This is a big deal. It continues to prove to the market that we are credible and real. When BA, sort of the gold standard in international airlines, when BA comes into your community, it sends a signal that, oh, hey, wait a minute, maybe we, the other carriers, should look differently in Pittsburgh. So we expect to build on this. Right now, the service is 4 times a week, and it's year-round. So we can't make all of this progress and leave the terminal the way it is. As I said when I got here to interview with the board 4.5 years ago, when you walk through the terminals, it feels like, ugh, what happened here? It does not feel like it's an airport that's part of a vibrant, growing community that's reinvented itself and is making progress. It feels sad. And while we've made a lot of improvements, we have too much space, way too much space. It costs a lot to heat it, air condition it, maintain it, and you can't just shut parts of it off. It's all connected. So we want to make sure that that the people who come into this airport, whether you live here or you're visiting, that you get an impression of Pittsburgh right away and that the facility itself speaks to you. So we have an international opportunity, British Airways and others. We can't bring people in through the way we used to, which is you'd come in from the Paris flight, you'd go through TSA just to go home. And the reason for that is because the international arrivals are airside, meaning post-security. And Customs and Border Protection requires, a federal law, you have to touch your bag when you land. The minute you touch that bag, you're no longer a secure passenger, so you can't mix with the passengers who've gone through TSA. So in order for you to go home, you have to line up to go through the one TSA checkpoint to get to the garage. So we fixed that right away as soon as I got there. And we now have you have to kind of walk through the back of the building to get onto one train car that's secured during international arrivals. That costs us $1 million a year in contract security guards. And that was based on what they do in Orlando. We have 8 miles of bag belts that connect the two terminals. So when you get cranky about your bag, just think about what it's traveling. And we have security lines that line up past the garage doors, or past the doors, into the parking garage at 5:30 in the morning. So it just doesn't make sense. We have a 4-level terminal, dual roadways on both sides. We've got to fix this, and we have an opportunity to do it because we've got an opportunity to build Pittsburgh's airport, and that's what we're going to do. So it's taken us 4 years to get to this point. We are through concept design, and we're coming into schematic design right now. We've been meeting monthly with the airlines for 4 years. We've had lots of open houses. We've had lots of community involvement through program advisory working groups, best practice working groups. So if you get any pushback or you start to read people who get cranky that we haven't vetted this enough, irrelevant. That's not true. We did, and we've been incredibly inclusive. So I'm comfortable with what we're doing. The airlines who pay for this are comfortable with what we're doing, and we're going to move through it. So I appreciate people's concerns, but it's not being paid for with county taxpayer money. Nobody's property tax gets impacted by this. They never did. With the airport after U.S. Airways dehubbed, the state stepped in with gaming funds, $12 million a year, which is about 3% of our operating budget. It helps, don't get me wrong, but with passengers on the increase, our revenue up, we are confident that we can pay for what's coming because we'll float bonds that the airlines will back through an operating agreement. Just to let you know that we intend to open in 2023, so it's not long off. And during the time that we're constructing, things will operate. You will still take the train, you will still check in and pick up your bags in the same building while we build a new building to connect in between the two concourses. And I'll show you a little bit more about that soon. Just a note on the project teams that we've hired, and I see some of them are here today. We wanted to make sure that Pittsburgh was involved in this project. So if you think about $1 billion plus worth of construction, in the world of airports, that's actually not a big deal. LAX has a $14 billion program going on right now. But $1 billion is still a lot, and we wanted to make sure that Pittsburghers would be involved. So we broke it up into 2 projects, so we didn't end up with a mega firm that we would have to bring in, do the design, do the construction, and then leave the community. We wanted Pittsburghers involved, so we broke it up into 2 projects. So the architectural and engineering design teams are Gensler and HDR in association with Louis Vidal Architects, and they were awarded the design contract for the terminal in July of 2018. They actually spent 7 months studying the history and the culture of Pittsburgh in order to reflect that in the terminal design. We wanted to make sure that the building looks like it reflects Pittsburgh and the materials and the sense of place. So you're going to see a little bit of that. We're certainly refining that as we go. So the team was brought together to address local sensibility and international industry best practice. People come from around the world into Pittsburgh. It should look like it keeps up with the world's best airports. And given the assets in this community, with the universities, with the entrepreneurs, with the businesses, we should be able to deliver. That shouldn't be a problem. For the garage, the roadways, we have the Michael Baker team that's working with us on that. We've just awarded construction management contracts, and those are underway with Turner, PJ Dick and Hunt, and more to be announced as we move through the project. So this is it. I'll show you a lot more interesting renderings going forward. But there's our existing X with the concourse in the middle, and what we're going to have, those are not 3 separate buildings. It's all together. But on the departures level, you will check in, move through security, and go right into the terminal. Right? No more train. On the arrivals level, that pink box is a meter greeter area, and the blue box is baggage claim. So we're building only what we need. And we're building for future expansion if necessary. Now, I want to be clear, future expansion really means if we have more people from going into and out of Pittsburgh. I don't think we're going to be a hub again. That's not our future. If we were, we could certainly manage it in this building. But the buildings we have today don't work, and they don't make sense. The train costs us about $4 million a year to run. And it's a single point of failure. If it goes down, we're bussing you. You can't walk out there. So we want this to be a lot more user-friendly, a lot more technologically advanced. I can tell you that in the building we have today, we don't even have a freight elevator. So, right, you have to make sure that the building works. So that's why our maintenance staffs, our operations staffs, our teams are involved right now in helping with the design. A lot of times what you'll see is a design team will come in and the airport leadership will say, okay, over to you. And then 6 months before the building opens, the airport team gets to come in and learn how it's going to operate. And that's usually when they ask the questions like, why'd you do that? So we're going to avoid that by getting them involved right from the beginning, and we've been doing that pretty successfully. So we will be tailoring this terminal to Pittsburgh, providing shorter walking distances for everybody, better placed amenities and concessions, much more intuitive wayfinding, better signage, I can tell you that, a better experience through security, which won't be hard because ours is awful, and faster bag times, right? Just to name a few of the things. But importantly for us, in my world, the airlines agree with us. The airlines who pay the bills have said, yes, we agree that this is the right thing to do. We'll support this, and it stabilizes their costs into the future. When you build a new building, it's going to be cheaper to run than rehabbing an old one. So, a little bit about our teams and what's been going on. We've certainly been bringing new people onto the team. A lot of folks coming from Pittsburgh, from the private sector, from the industry itself, who have been brought on to really enhance the team, and we are looking for diversity in the truest sense, diversity of thought, experience, race, gender, experience, and it has been successful so far, and we're going to keep going. It also means that we are looking for that kind of diversity from our partners. We care about looking for folks who can help us think and think differently, reflect what's going on in the community, and that's part of why we're here today and why I do so much speaking, is to make sure that people feel like there's a place at the table and they know how to get involved. So a little bit more about the terminal. This is based on, you get the next slide on Neteco. This is based on a concept that the design team has decided is the DNA of Pittsburgh. Neteco, nature, technology, and community. And that's what we expect to reflect in the design, in the experience, in the team when it comes to this new terminal, the project, and what it means for the community. So if you think about nature, the terminal design, can we see the next? Yeah, the terminal design team took inspiration from the rolling hills. As they said, there's not a flat surface in this area. Rivers, parks with landscape contours reflected in the structure of the roof and the facade. The technology, we expect that the region's new economic strength and tech renaissance is giving rise to innovation when it comes to, and you'll see this when it comes to passenger flow and building systems. You might not see the building systems, but we're going to know what that means. For a more modern, adaptable facility and an improved user experience. That's triggering a whole digital modernization and modernization of our workforce. Right? As our head of HR said, we need the team to be as smart as the building. So we're actually going through a massive transformation in how we work at the airport, and that's going to be very exciting. And then community. How do we represent the region's proud history? And there's a real grit to this community and a lot of entrepreneurial spirit and a lot of parts of this community that need to be reflected right in the building. So how do we do that while we build a facility that can be future focused? How is it adaptable enough so that we're not precluding the next team from making the changes they're going to need to make to adapt? So this will result in a much more pleasant experience from curb to gate. by consolidating landside and airside operations into one connected, adaptable facility. That's the goal. It's our turn to get back into a leadership position in the industry. I can tell you the world is watching. The amount of press from around the world that's interested in this project is staggering. We are one of 3 airports in the entire country that gets to build an airport terminal from scratch. Kansas City, Salt Lake, and us. That's it. Everybody else is rehabbing. Everybody else is fixing what they have. If you think of LaGuardia, if you think of LAX, that's just fixing what they have. And that's, believe me, they need it. But we get to start over, and that really gives us a huge opportunity. So I talked a little bit about our outreach and our DBE program. We have set a goal of 14%. We look at that as a floor, not a ceiling, and our partners know it. So you can expect that they will be participating in a number, as they have been, a number of the outreach exercises and initiatives that we've got scheduled. This is a really important issue to the team. It's one I pay attention to. I was just telling Doris that we had an audit by the FAA on our DBE program, and I'm proud to say that they left with 3 best practices they're taking back to Washington from us. That was a huge benefit. Thank you very much. We're not looking to check the box. We're looking to leave a learning legacy. We're looking to make a difference. We're looking to really have people involved and reflect the rich diversity in this community. So that means identifying new DBEs who have not been working at the airport in the past, who may have been trying for 15 years to get in. It doesn't mean, listen, I gotta promise, I can't promise that just because you try to get on a team that it's my job to get you on one. But I will give you all the access that you need, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you. The goal is really to capacity build. If you look at the goals of a DBE program and why it was created, it was really to make sure that people would have access to the types of projects that would allow them the experience that will allow them to grow, and that's what we're committed to doing. So Janae Oliver, who is our Business and Diversity Outreach Manager, along with a number of our sub-consultants, are partnering with local community organizations, hosting networking events in different communities throughout the Pittsburgh region. If you don't know about our website, pittransformed.com, I'd invite you to sign up because we push information out and you will get an email alert that something is happening. We are going into the community, raising awareness, and there it is, about the program, answering questions so that we can get folks involved. The first event, the next event, not the first, but the next event is going to be held in Homewood in July. So you can go to the website July 25th, is that right?
10th, July 10th.
It's the 10th? Oh, thanks. What?
25th, we're here.
25th, we're here. The 10th is in Homewood. Good, thanks. So there will be, the goal is to introduce subs to the prime contractors. So folks will be there from Jacobs Engineering, Michael Baker International, PJ Dick, AECom, and Turner. And all are working to figure out how they can be more inclusive and find roles for small businesses here in Pittsburgh. On the 27th, we're going to be August 27th. We'll be hosting a vendor product fair at the Convention Center. And the goal of this event is to identify and encourage participation from local companies, highlight locally made products. We want the terminal to scream, we still make things in Pittsburgh, okay? And provide specific information on the modernization team. Again, you can go to the website to get more information on that. So that's a lot to talk about. Happy to answer questions, but I'll say this, and I've only been in Pittsburgh for 4.5 years, as Doris said, that is really clear that this region just keeps bouncing back, right? Steel collapses, we diversify the economy. The U.S. Airways hub goes away, we figure out how to diversify the carrier mix and the opportunities at the airport. And this terminal is another great opportunity to demonstrate that we're back. And not just in Pittsburgh, but to an industry, a global industry, as well as global marketplace. It's an opportunity to showcase Pittsburgh and everything that it's been, is, and can be. So we have a responsibility to create a welcoming feeling at that airport. We've got to figure out how to get that done as we're building, which is always a challenge, and then when we open. And we want to make sure that our heritage is well reflected in whatever it is that we create. So we all know what the U.S. Airways airport looked like, and now we're going to find out what Pittsburgh's airport looks like. You have a 90-second video. Yes, well, we've been working on that agreement for as long as we've been working on the terminal, and then we go to the bond market, and we should be breaking ground sometime this fall. So any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to.
This is great.
Thanks for being here, Christina.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
And who are you?
I'm Rob Will, and two roles. I have the Keystone Energy Forum for API,
Okay.
which is the American Petroleum Institute, and we're also affiliated with the government relations firm in Harrisburg, Greenleaf Partners. We represent the Port Authority here in Pittsburgh and some other sites clients. But,
Okay.
my question's around the oil and gas
Yep.
industry and what role has it played in terms of revenue production for the airport, number one, and number two, you talked about the microgrid. You've seen in Pennsylvania, universities, large manufacturing facilities like Procter & Gamble that are doing microgrids and producing enough electricity to meet all their needs and then sell some back to the grid. So what is the plan for the microgrid in the airport, other than redundancy for the electric power?
Yeah, well, don't underestimate the effect of redundancy. So the oil and gas. Look, we sit on the largest natural gas deposit in the country, the world. I don't know. It's big. The Marcellus Shale is a big deal. It's part of the economic diversification of this community. The energy industry is incredibly important, and at the airport, it's made a huge difference. That revenue is part of the reason that we can do this. The way that it works in airports in the United States, this is a fact. So when you read the story, or the cranky guy who writes to the Post-Gazette or the Trib and says, why don't they use this money for something else? We can't. It's illegal. The FAA says, if you are running a Part 139 commercial airport in the United States, any and all revenue generated at the airport must stay on the airport property. We don't get to build a train into downtown. We don't get to fix schools. We don't get to fix roadways. So the oil and gas revenue that we get as a result of the drilling that takes place on our property, and we're one of 5 airports in the U.S. that has this happen, that goes to pay for our capital needs. And that's been a game changer for us, I would say. I can tell you it's one of the reasons I took the job, because it's a revenue stream that not many airport executives get to work with. As far as the microgrid, we're looking for it to power the terminal, to save us on our utility bills, because we can take the gas out of the ground and we can turn it into electricity, and we're going to do the same for our tenants. So for us, it's an opportunity for, just another good business practice. We're constantly looking for how we can lower costs to our partners and how we can return value to the community, and I think that checks both boxes. And if that's the ad you needed, I just gave it to you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes,
Where's the Calder Mobile?
I don't know. We have a robust, and who are you?
I'm
Chris Moore.
Okay, so we have an arts and culture program. We've been really fortunate that the Richard King Mellon Foundation a couple of years ago called and said, how do we help you with this sense of place that you want to create? And they've been fantastic. So there's been a lot of additions to the arts and culture programming at the airport, I'm sure you've noticed. But we have a tremendous amount of assets like the Calder and others that we're actually, the Calder's an obvious one, that we're cataloging and we're figuring out where they're going to be placed in the new terminal. Miss Pittsburgh that hangs over the security checkpoint, what do we do with that? Where's that going to go? What do we do with the Calder? How do we preserve the best of what we have? How do we create space to rotate through new exhibits, but the Calder's staying, and it will be prominently displayed somewhere. And so will Franco Harris and George. Yes, sir.
My name's Rick Bowman.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, like, how are you going to make security easier to go through while taking away security?
Without taking it away. Well, first of all, technology has made it a lot more efficient. So one of the ways we can make it easier is we can have more lanes in the same place, right? So when you get that TSA checkpoint person going, hey, move across the street, everybody down. So we can stop that. We can have more lanes, which will allow for more efficient, more throughput, right? So that hopefully we won't see the choke points that we have today. There's a lot of anxiety in a passenger when they're lined up behind the doorway that even gets you into the train. There's a panic. I mean, one of the things that we have, I don't know if you noticed, but when you come through the security checkpoint and you're waiting for the train to take you out, we installed a sign that says, this transit next. Because people didn't know. And then we have a little countdown clock. How long is it before the train comes? This is the stuff that panics people. Oh my God, I missed the train. They don't know another one's coming in 90 seconds. And believe me, when you're late, 90 seconds can feel like 20 minutes. So we're constantly looking for ways to reduce the anxiety. We're looking at technology solutions with TSA. We're looking at queuing. We're looking at bringing in clear. How do we manage the lines better? How do we give more opportunities for people who want to use biometrics? But just by having more space, and that will make a huge difference. And then the question is, which technology is appropriate that we can use that will continue to push people through faster and allow them to get airside faster, which calms everybody down. When they know they're in the area, they can get to their gate, everybody's a lot happier. So that's how we're going to do it.
Thank you
Okay,
for
thank you.
updating us and making us feel better about this major investment that you're making. I think you got a feel for Christina and what is happening at the airport, and we intend to keep you posted. And let me start out of order with our Meet the Primes. This is what she had talked about for July 25th. Janae Oliver and our team have been working on doing this presentation where, thanks to their efforts, all the primes will be meeting with us. They will give an overview. You will have an opportunity to talk with them, find out what is in their component of what they're doing, and how you get to be a part of it. This is really a big deal for what is happening. We have never had this before. By having the primes there, and Janae said something to me that was pretty significant. She said it's all one company. Don't think of it as, each company, PJ, Dick, and Turner, and everybody being individual. It's all just one company. And that's the presentation that you will receive if you come on the 25th. We encourage you to take part in this. This is game-changing, what we're doing. Before I go on, since they're in the room and I know they'll be moving around, let me congratulate Keisha. Don't talk to her right now. Keisha Mohammed and Mikkel Tissot graduated last night from Leadership Pittsburgh, and we just want to congratulate you both. And as you know, Keisha is our COO. If you look at what we just did, let me start by thanking members of this team, Jacob and a number of other companies, PJ, Dick, Turner, for being a part of our golf clinic that we had that brought us to our knees on May 31st. Many of you were a part of that. It was a first time ever that we held a golf clinic, or anyone has had a golf clinic, where 12 C-suite executives came, played with our members for the purpose solely of developing relationships. not asking about the order or how do I get in and who do I meet with, but just play the game. And as those of you that golf know, when you spend time on the course, you get to know a lot about people. It was probably one of the nicest events that we've had. We just want to thank everyone that participated, and my energy level will be up in another month, but I guess we're going to plan for it next year. Golf clinics are not a sweeping, roll it out. There's a lot of detail work that goes into it, and I just want to thank everyone that was a part of that. We had 2 new members to join with us, Rio Hawkins from First Tee. She is a golf coach that was at the Bob O'Connor Golf Course, and we had it at the golf club. She joined on the spot. She liked what she had to see. Thanks also to everyone that responded to the survey, because people told us very interesting things, how much they enjoyed it, but most importantly, they look forward to next year. Lori Rue is another new member that we have from the Braddock Water Authority, and I think some of you know Lori. She is now employed with them and brought them onto our team. Upcoming events, there are a number on your table. June 18th, which is Tuesday. If you haven't signed up, there's still time. We're having a Grow with Google workshop. You will learn about how to market to your customers with them online, reaching customers online, search maps. They have a free website. It's really going to be a nice event. I hope you will come out for that. On the 20th, we have our cybersecurity workshop. If you attended 2 years ago, you definitely want to come back now, because the hackers are out there. I can attest to that. I had somebody try and hack into my account, and there's a lot to be learned on what is happening in cybersecurity and what you need to do to protect your firm as well as your personal accounts. We have a nice mixer on the 26th with Citizens Bank. Our corporate sponsor, Scott Brown, is holding that for us. And on the 27th, it's our turn to treat you. That is our members' orientation. Come for a luncheon workshop where you can learn about the chamber, what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and how we got started. Answer any questions you have, but how to engage you as members into being more active with us. I told you about the Meet the Primes. On your table, there is a tent that says August 10th. The African American Heritage Day Parade will be on the north side. Yes, Stephanie, we have them out. And that should be a fun day. That should be a fun day. September 11th, or 9/11 as people still refer to it, is going to be the kickoff of a very special workshop series that we will be holding, that everyone in this room needs to tell their friends about and come. We will be holding a dementia Alzheimer's workshop series. So it'll be every quarter. We'll have a different workshop on it. It is amazing what I didn't know about the disease. I thought dementia was one thing, Alzheimer's was another. They all fall under the umbrella. Dr. Jeanette Southpaw from UPMC will be our guest speaker to launch this. We encourage you to come out. It will be at the Pittsburgh Life Science Center on the south side. We'll be sending out notices. I'm just giving you a heads up. If you can, 9/11 from 3 to 5. The workshop time will be the same, but you need to come out and learn more about it. And each quarter, we'll have something that hopefully will be beneficial to you. Thank you, Christina. This was great. This was great. You said some of the things we hoped we would hear. We have people here that can demonstrate, our members included, that are part of your team now, and we want to see those numbers to grow. So thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful weekend, and to all the fathers, Happy Father's Day.
Have a great weekend. Looking forward to seeing you. Paul.